of. Even more inconceivable that a lawyer would tape a client, totally unheard of and perhaps illegal. The good news is that your favorite president did nothing wrong. You also heard Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, say that the tape was exculpatory. Is that how you see it?
No, I think it's ambiguous. I don't know who leaked it. If anybody in the Trump organization leaked it, it was for short-term benefit, but very, very serious long-term implications. There are waiver issues involved, waiving lawyer-client privilege, not only waiving it as to this tape, but if there are other tapes, it's possible it was leaked by people within the Cohen camp. It's unlikely it was leaked by government officials because there's a court order and it was in the possession essentially of a former judge appointed by Kimball Wood. So I think the first mystery is who leaked it and what advantage did they think they were going to get from leaking it. I don't see any particular advantage to the Trump claims based on this tape. I think if you have something that's positive, you wait until you see the whole thing in context, and then you put it out together in a systematic way. This is ambiguous at best.
Well, I could flip that around. CNBC is reporting actually that it came from the Trump camp, but let me bring that to you, Dan Abrams. I could imagine the Trump camp would want it out thinking, bad news, get it out early.
Yeah, and address it, and Giuliani can say it's exculpatory. But the only way that this is exculpatory is if literally President Trump is on that tape saying, $150,000? Why would we want to pay her $150,000? I didn't have a relationship with her.
Pay AMI.
Oh, yeah. Pay AMI or anything related to Karen McDougal. I mean, you want to say exculpatory, then that's what's got to be on that tape, is sort of shock, confusion, sort of saying, why would we be paying this? And that's not the impression that I get that's on that tape. So the question becomes, is this just a potential problem for President Trump, or is there a potential legal problem? I think those are the two issues.
Correspondence is your case, Michael Avenatti, as well. I guess this was taking place a few weeks before the deal was reached with Stormy Daniels back in 2016. In both cases, the Trump camp, with the Karen McDougal case, they said they knew nothing about what AMI was doing. In the first reports about the Stormy Daniels payment, it was all that Michael Cohen did it all by himself. How does this change your case?
Well, I think it changes our case in a big way, George, in that, first of all, this is not the only tape. I can tell you that for a fact. There's multiple tapes. You don't
know that there are more tapes of President Trump, though.
No, I do know there's more tapes of President Trump. There's multiple tapes of President Trump, number one. All right, so that's first of all. That ultimately is going to prove to be a big problem for the president. You know, that old adage, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, is going to be true in this case because the president knew that his attorney, Michael Cohen, had a predisposition towards taping conversations with people. And Cohen had shared tapes with the president along the way during the 10 years of legal representation. Donald Trump knew better, and it's shocking to me that he now expresses shock about being taped. So that's number one. Number two, this shows that the president knew that these payments were being made prior to the election. He was a participant in it. He was advising as to how it was going to be done, and none of that is going to prove to be helpful to him or Michael Cohen, especially as it relates to campaign finance violations.
Does it change your stance towards Michael Cohen?
Well, this particular disclosure does not change our stance towards Michael Cohen, but there's been an evolution of our position towards Michael Cohen recently. I think that's fair to say.
And let's be clear, it wasn't illegal for Michael Cohen to make this
one-party consent.
Right, but it may have been unethical. I mean, that's a separate question. People have to separate out the question of what is your legal obligation, meaning can you be charged with a crime for it? The answer to that is no. The separate question is, could he get in trouble with the Bar Association for what he did? Absolutely. I think the only way he could possibly defend having made this recording is either to say that Donald Trump knew, which it doesn't seem was the case, or somehow he was protecting himself, right? If he's going to say, I thought Donald Trump was potentially committing a crime here, and so I had to protect myself. Well, if neither of those are the case, then there really isn't any defense for him in making the recording.
I want to bring that to Alan Dershowitz. Those are the vulnerabilities for Michael Cohen. The other possibility, though, is that this could end up helping him if he chooses to try to cooperate with prosecutors either in the Southern District or with Robert Mueller.
Well, there's no question that he's holding out the possibility of cooperating. He's holding it out so that both the president can hear it and possibly take some actions, namely a pardon, and he's holding it out for the prosecutors as well. But I have a question for Michael Avenatti. How do you know that there are other tapes? You're not in a position where you could